So this is a demo of the Solvent-Configr product. If you're getting this from the AWS marketplace, your default login would be team admin as indicated there. And the password is going to be the AWS instance ID. It comes with a self-signed certificate. So, once you have access to the instance, you can update that to something more appropriate. I'm spoofing the IP address to some custom hostname. You can use whatever you want. So let's log in. The instance is currently running on a small, I believe it's a T2 small instance, which is underpowered somewhat for this product. You can bump it up to a T2 medium, which is a recommended starting point, and you should get somewhat better performance there. So once this loads up, you'll probably want to change the default password to something more appropriate besides the instance ID. And you do that by going here and manage users. It says team admin here. Just replace that password with whatever you deem appropriate. So we're going to do a quick demo of creating an object and a few things that you can do with it. Uh, Create a folder, call it test. And the object we're going to try to create here is a MongoDB config. We're not going to create the whole thing, just show a few of the features. So to create an object, you say, click on the folder there, say new, the config name in there. They'll prompt you if you want to load it, just say yes. And that creates the object. If you look at this, it has kind and API version. We'll add those to that, call it pod, API version, it's v1. We add that. And the other object, the other property in here or attribute is metadata. So we're going to add it as a composite object. To create a composite object, you either add a curly braces or in the case of a list, the brackets. So you have to mark it as final, you have to make the type executable, and you have to enable evaluation. Once you do that, you hit go. That'll create a composite object and append it. This composite object has a property called name. I believe it's Mongo. So we add that as well. So we've created two objects, and of course you can create whatever complex objects you want. We can create list types. So let's see if we go to volume. Now the original object we created when we created the metadata object, we created it from the MongoDB's editor in this view here. But you could also do it here. Right click, say list, and that creates a volume. Right? And just as we did for the original object, we can add an entry for that volume there. You do have to label list items in here, which is a little different from what you're used to with from the JSON file itself. So let's just call this entry one as the object, just as we did with the other object. But for entries, we're not going to specify a name. And then, of course, you see the type says it's a list. So we add that. We can open that up. It has a name, attribute. We treat it just like others, Mongo disk. Right? And you can mix the types of the entries. Right, so we could just say angle disk 2, and in that here, we'll just leave it as a string. It'll add it as a string item. So the first one is an object, hash map object. The second one is just a string. Um, there are some other capabilities. So suppose I want to add, say, Mongo with a date time appended to it dynamically. I could do something like this, new date, or just the full date, and go disk for date. And here we're going to change the type to Groovy as a programming language we want to use to evaluate, because this is now an expression. It's not just a static text. And just as we did for the executable, you have to evaluate on the right, make it final, and specify the type. When I do this, it's going to add it just like any other entry, but you'll see once we evaluate the object, it will actually evaluate to a date. So we're going to test this. In other words, we're going to actually evaluate the object. First, you have to make it accessible through the browser. This is a security feature that ensures that someone cannot just put a URL in and get access to the objects. You have to actually expose it. That goes for all the objects in here. So it's a pretty nice security feature. All right, so we evaluate this, and our object is here. And as you can see, it evaluated that expression that we added in there and added it to the volume list without having to use any templating, which is pretty nice. So there is a ton of things you can do in here. I'm going to show another example of importing an existing JSON. So we typed in all this MongoDB stuff, but suppose we just want to import it. We could do that as well. I am going to, let's rename this just to avoid confusion, to hide that. Now let's download that file. All right. And we're going to import it by objectifying it. Click objectify there, and it imported that whole thing. Click on it, double click, and it loads it all up, just as you have it here. And you can add dynamicism in here, just like I did with the expression example. Again, to evaluate this, you have to uncheck that security feature. If we come here, you evaluated the object. I'm going to show one more feature. Suppose by default, when you evaluate these things, they come out as JSON. Suppose you want to instead output YAML. The product comes packaged with the Jackson library for JVM, which allows you to work with JSON objects. So we're going to add a post execution handler here that will do what I'm trying to do. Let's save, basically the capture this object as a variable. So that's what the first thing there, the first handler would do. The second handler is going to be, it'll return the result. It's going to be a piece of code that will run. So I'm going to add this, and I will attach some YAML code, some Java code. Right. So if I click edit code here, it will say what do you want to do. I say write YAML, select the language you want to use, and you hit that. I'm gonna paste this code here that I wrote before. So this is a simple Jackson-based code that could accept that would accept the config that we just set up and output it as YAML. So hit save. Right, so review this again. We capture the config here, the output of this object as a config variable. That's just a name. You can change it to whatever. And then second directive here, or second handler, is to actually output it as YAML. And if you click code, it'll show you the code that's doing that. You can put whatever code that does whatever you want in there. Now, if we evaluate this now, it's going to return as primary, meaning that it returns the evaluation of this object. The primary results of it is going to come from this code instead of the default that we had before. If I do this, and as you can see, we have the nice YAML. Conceivably, this could be XML, it could be a properties file, it could really be anything you want. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do with this product and technology. It's a fairly unique piece of software. It does a lot of things, and hopefully, if you need any additional information, you can check out the forum on GitHub or go to our product, uh, the company site, and check out the documentation there. That can also provide you the link to the GitHub forum. Actually, the GitHub developer forum link is also available here. So if you have questions, that's probably the best place to post them. If you have issues, let us know. Thank you very much.